Hi guys, welcome to this video. This video is going to be about the HD Mesh Scenery version 3 for X-Plane 10.3, I think it is and above, in 64-bit, which is the latest HD Mesh Scenery freeware from AlpilotX.org, I think it is, but AlpilotX, if you Google that, I'll probably put the link in the description below. But basically to have a look at fixing that, and I'll explain it all in a second. Now this is, before going any further, this is the Aerobus DA42 Twin Star, an aircraft I've flown in real life, which is a very nice aircraft. The only problem it has is it doesn't cater for tall people, and I'm 6'2", so on occasions it could get quite uncomfortable. But this was quite a revolutionary aircraft. It's a piston engine that uses Jet A1 fuel, so there was a lot of controversy about it to start with and all sorts of stuff, but I'm probably going to do a video on this at some point, during which point I will talk about it. However, let's get ourselves going. Now this is always the bit that, when I did some of the flying I did in summer, this was always the bit that really irked me, is you can see how much glass there is in this thing. It's like a greenhouse. You close that thing down and you know all about it in summer. But this isn't strictly technically correct for how to get these things started, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. So keys are in, left-hand master's on, fuel's on. Don't forget the electric master. As I say, I'm just chucking this thing up as quickly as I can. Right, there we go. Left one started. Slightly different to a normal aircraft in that it's got load instead of RPM. That's because it's FADEC. What I mean by that is that it's full authority digital engine control, and the basic theory is that these two levers here take the place of throttles, RPM and prop, and all of that good stuff is controlled by the aircraft itself. So let's just finally turn the avionics on. One of my bugbears with this aircraft, there aren't many, but this is it. This is a Garmin GPS 530. The real aircraft has the G1000, and in comparison this is a very poor sort of relation. It's useful, it's GPS, you can use it as a normal GPS, but in reality the actual aircraft is 1,001% better than that in terms of its navigation and aviation equipment. However, we are what we are, so other than that it's a pretty good realistic demonstration of the aircraft. Pitot heat's on, don't really need it. So, where are we with this? Well, this is Birmingham Airport in the UK. This is a reasonably large international airport. And when we get airborne you'll see just how much nonsense this is. If you ever have been to or fly in and around, or even just look at Google Earth for Birmingham in the UK, which is EGBB, Echo Golf Bravo Bravo, you'll see how much of a load of nonsense this is. The fuel farm is here. Well, they've got it near the undershoot of runway 33, I don't know. Terminals, I mean they're not too bad, X-plane styly. But if you look at the texturing on the taxiways and apron, it's appalling. Texturing on the ground isn't particularly good. The layout isn't particularly great. This is supposed to be a city, and this is supposed to be not very easy to see. And this is the A45 dual carriageway which runs down the back. And there's a massive nest of car parking and roads around here which aren't represented. So all things told, it's pretty much a load of nonsense. So let's get airborne and let's see what we get. Let's just get ourselves up. So can't remember the figures. As I say, it's years since I've flown one of these. So we'll get airborne, probably rotate about 75 knots, something like that, and then climb out at 90. It's a nice aircraft to fly. It's just if you're 6'2", you tend to bounce off the roof because they're quite tight in the cockpit. Nice leather seats though. It's always interesting doing training in a nice leather seats. Compared to the normal scruffy things that you get in most training aircraft. Let's get airborne, get the gear up. Don't need flaps for a normal takeoff. It just doesn't use them. So, yeah, all looks good. Right, this is the issue. Let's not have too steep a an angle for the flight. This is the issue. This is a city in real life. This is buildings, this is tower blocks, this is industry, this is factories, and you can see there's absolutely no relationship to it at all. And whilst we're climbing, we'll also point out that our frame rate is about 27.5 frames per second. Now there's always a lot of talk about, oh, I want a frame rate of X, Y and Z. Ignore that. Get yourself to a position where your flight sim is flying smoothly and there's not much lag between your flight and your inputs, and you're fine. Don't get too carried away with frame rates, it's not that important. So this is over towards the Welsh Hills over in the west. It does represent the terrain and the topography quite nicely, but you can see the road network. Although it's fairly accurate, it's just basically a load of garbage. Now for those who aren't aware, X-Plane 10 uses a thing called plausible scenery, and the principle is that the road network and the topography, the program interprets what it thinks ought to be there. So we've got all these little cul-de-sac type things and no buildings. Yet we've got all these roads here, but because they're kind of an American style grid network, it's decided to put loads of buildings and trees in there in terms of autogen. Now I haven't got the autogen maxed out because on occasions that starts to look a bit silly in X-Plane. But this is probably the single biggest reason why I don't spend much time in X-Plane, is this kind of hodgepodge of like British arable August farming fields where it looks like, you know, the grains all being collected and it's this nice summery effect, and I just can't stand it. I'll be honest guys, I can't stand it. It's awful. Bears no reflection on real life. Now in terms of scenery, you know, scenery for X-Plane, virtually all of it can be got hold of freeware, and this is the whole point of this video, is to see what you get for your time and effort spent downloading. And I say time and effort because the files for this are enormous. So there we go, there's a quick look round. You can see I'm not particularly keen on the textures for the actual airfield. The runway layout, I can tell you for nothing, is correct. Not keen on the layout on the ground, not keen on the autogen layout. The road network is accurate-ish, but I'm also not keen on this look in the distance where you've got this kind of mess. There's no other way of describing it. So what we'll do now is we will have a look at the same thing, but we'll do it in HD Mesh Scenery 3. The next part of the video is going to be about how to install it, and then we'll have a look at it after that. Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of the video. This is the locating, installing of the scenery. Now, website you need to go to is this one, alpilotx.net, alpilotx.net. I'll leave the link, this link here in the description, so you can find it nice and easily. First thing to point out, it's donationware. People consider it to be freeware. If you like it and enjoy it and use it, then please consider €10. What's that, £6, something like that. That's not a lot of money. If you compare it to the scenery packs that you go out and buy that are 30, 35, 40 pounds for a small area, this is really quite good value because well, you'll see in a moment. This is the main menu. Blah 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 blah. Download. Right. The reason it's good value for money is, look at this. This is the area it covers. Now I know that if you live in the Middle East or Russia or something like that, you're going to feel a bit hard done by because it doesn't cover there. I'm not sure if V2 does, or even if the V2 files are still available. But fundamentally, for those of us who are fortunate enough to live under the horrible lime green colours, it does cover your area. So what do I do now then, you may ask? Well, the files are hosted along a number of sites, 4 main sites. Now, X-Plane Airsoft and isdg.com.or have limited bandwidth for this, whereas a torrent, flightsim.com, will have an official torrent site, obviously allows you to do peer-to-peer, which takes about the same amount of time most of the time, depending on how many people are seeding it. And, you know, it reduces the bandwidth requirements on these good guys here and the links to them. So you can get first class membership at flightsim.com, by the way, $30 a year, blah 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 blah. I've never used it. So this first one here, if you were to click on this link, it takes you to the torrent support. You can download it here, qubittorrent.org. I've used it. It seems perfectly fine to me. The next thing you can do is you click on one of these links. Now you can either click on the geographical area, or you can click on the link. If you click on the geographical area, it comes up with the option flightsim.com. So you click on that, it thinks about it for a little while, and it takes you to that exact scenery spot you want to do. Now with a qubit torrent, click on the little QB here. Okay, so that then puts it into the torrent. When you click on that, it loads up your torrent. I've loaded it several times, so open it and you'll see that it's already in the download list. And here it is. Now I'm actually seeding as opposed to downloading, but I am, however, downloading the trees, farms and whatnot, which I will do subsequently. Probably won't do a video because at the end of the day it's pretty much the same process. So that's how you get hold of it. Where you save it and where you store it is up to you. However, the next interesting bit is the installation. So first thing to point out is you can delete V2 if you want. That's gone the wrong way. V2, there you go. Or at least give it a lower priority. Now the lower priority is important, as is the file name. Xplane, and it's very similar to FSX in reality. It works in layers. So the top layer is, if you like, the buildings, houses and whatnot, and the bottom layer, the middle layer is like the road network, the vectors, and the bottom layer is like the mesh and photorealistic scenery type bits. So this is how it should come down as the hierarchy, if that makes sense. So let's go over here. Now, what you have to do, create a subfolder called that exactly, word for word, letter for letter as it is. And there we go. So let's go into that. Create the EarthNav data one in there. Let's go into that. And then you uncompress your files. And it gives it a file name which relates to the geographical position. So plus 50 is 50 degrees north. And 010 is, I think it's 0 to 10 west. And it comes up with all these files, and as you can see, these are all these files here. So this is the hierarchy of how it works. Now I'm only doing one area because I've never used it before, and I don't want to spend all my time downloading something I don't like if I don't like it. I'm sure it will, but ultimately this is my theory, is download one area, test it, and then I can always chuck it out if I don't like it. So that's the first bit. Stick it all in. Now one of the things you have to be aware of now is that because of the process of the hierarchy, the name becomes very important, because it should automatically position it into a location in the scenery packs ini. So let's go back to our file here. Let's go here, Xplane 10, custom data, not custom data, GNS 430, custom scenery, scenery packs ini down here. Now, this is the important one. You can see the hierarchy here. At the moment in the hierarchy, it's got us right at the top. We do not want to do that. We want to take that and we want to put it... Where does it say you want to put it? I've already run the sim once. If you don't run the sim, that's an important point really, is if you don't run the sim, you won't have this line here. So run the sim at least once. When I run it, it looked absolutely awesome, because this was on top of all of the places that the Birmingham airport scenery, and because it's higher priority, it basically wiped everything that was underneath it. So it looked absolutely awful, absolutely horrendous. But there we go. So run at least once. You see any new folder will be put at the top automatically. You can and should always manually sort it, only rewrite it, because it basically every time you rewrite it, it reallocates the positions. Best to put it at the bottom. So let's do exactly that. Let's get that. Cut. Paste. Don't know why it's dropped a line, but there we go. And that's it, guys. File. Save. Now what we'll do is I shall see you guys in a moment as I reboot Xplane, and we'll have a look at what we've got. So here we are again, guys. We're back at Birmingham. We are back in our Aerobasque DA42. And the first thing to note is I didn't expect any change in terms of the scenery, because at the end of the day it's not an airport. Bizarrely, this is actually one of the demonstration airports for Xplane 10. This is the Birmingham International Airport in the UK, which is done by Aerosoft. It's not a massively great airport in terms of detail, but then it is free with the system, and we're just about to get crushed by a 747 as 747 as a 757 speedily taxis across. Now the first thing to notice is my frame rate has fallen to about 20 frames per second. Now there's a good chance that's down to the AI playing silly devils with me, but we'll see what it's like. As I say, the AI, the actual frame rate is not the issue. The issue is how the simulator flies and responds, whether it staggers, stutters, and whether you struggle to control it in a clear and fluid moment. So the first thing that's disappointing for me is I have had a frame rate drop. I haven't changed any auto-gen scenery, I haven't changed any visual settings. All I've done literally is download and install the textures. Now the probability is that the textures are much higher sort of pixel numbers in terms of the count, so there's a good chance that that is the reason why. However, what's noticeable as I climb away, the frame rate is climbing. We're up to about 25 frames a second at the moment. Now, what's it done? Not a lot, to be fair, looking at that. You know, and this is the thing, is that the auto-gen scenery basically is the bit that makes the town the city, and it doesn't affect the plausible scenery. However, what it has done, I don't know if you can see the undulations here, the actual terrain itself. It has done something with that. It has made it more undulating, it's made the roads crisper and clearer, and you can see that we've got clear terrain. Now, a couple of other things to look at. Looking over into the distance, we can see the reservoir there, we can see the Welsh hills over in the far distance, and we can see the fields are less of this orangey, maybe not. Actually, to be fair, I don't think I see a great deal of difference there at all, personally. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get my clever video editing skills together and see if I can do a side-by-side comparison. But really, looking at that, it's not any better than it was, to be fair, from my perspective. The lakes and the waterways seem to be a bit more in tune with where they should be. 747's coming to take us out here. The scenery generally, it's not going to change everything for me. I mean, look over towards the Welsh borders and it looks quite okay over there. Just be careful we're not risking a stall. The scenery underneath us is exactly the same. It is not the conurbation that Birmingham should be. So, you know, the next port of call now is to look for something that could potentially replace what we have here. The textures themselves aren't particularly bad. It's still got the same land class and vector. So really now the question mark for me is what the next step is. Hasn't really made any difference. I think the key now is to look at how, because it's yeah, I struggled to get excited about this, and I know a lot of people say a lot of good things about this. Reasonably speaking, this orangey effect for all of the ground over here. We all know that England is a green and pleasant land, or those of us who live there know it anyway. And it's strange because this looks really good. That looks quite reasonable when you look at it like that, with the cars and the roads and the fields and whatnot. It doesn't look like the actual textures are bad, maybe a bit blotchy. You know, let me get my bearings. Whereabouts in relation to Birmingham are we? There's the airport. Yeah, this does exist, by the way. This is a landfill site in real life. Not a quarry, but a landfill site. Now, I think if you get into the mountainous areas, it may well show itself a bit better. This is all accurate and correct. This is an area where I've lived and worked predominantly for the last 15 years now. It's not appallingly ugly, but it's not quite the quantum change that many people hoped it would be. So with that in mind, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I think at the moment I'm going to keep looking for scenery in X-Plane that might actually just bring it a little bit more into the real world as I would like to see it. Is it worth downloading? Yeah, I suppose my argument would be that you've got nothing to lose. The frame rates, I don't know if you can see, but the frame rates here are back up to 30 frames a second. It's quite a reasonable frame rate for these things. So you're not losing anything. If anything, what you're getting is a slightly more accurate terrain. But as I say, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it personally. Anyway, that's how to install it. That's how to make sure it's in the right place. There is a section in it in terms of how do I know if it's worked. I might just go back over that. But that's it, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed that, or at least in the very least found it beneficial for how to install the scenery. I think in certain parts of the world it may well be more impressive than others, but for the key here is that in essence you want it for the parts of the world that you want to fly in, and for me, I fly predominantly UK. I mean, you can see the grey effect here. This is the right shape and size for Birmingham. This grey patchwork, but you've just seen as we flew over it, it didn't look anything like that close to, which is the disappointment. So I suppose, you know, when you're flying airliners, much less of an issue. Again, this is going to be Coventry down here. You've got the industrial estates, great, but realistically, I'm not so sure. So that'd be the M6 running through there. Look. Coventry, and this is Nuneaton and Bedworth area, I think it is. So yeah, I mean, at a distance up here, look, it looks okay, looks fine. On top of looking down, it looks okay. It's this kind of mid-ground area, and the fact that it doesn't represent cities. I suppose that's the most disappointing thing for me in terms of auto-gen. I've actually got the auto gen set up higher than I would, and the issue I think is this plausible terrain. I think if you're flying in a place that's completely unfamiliar to you, you get a good sense of what's going on. So this is Coventry Airport down here, EGB Echo Golf Bravo Echo. I'm not navigating, by the way. I just threw it in this direction. It just so happens to be going somewhere I know a little bit about. Now you can see that it seems a bit better than Birmingham, actually, to be fair. With the infamous Coventry Ring Road here going all over the place, but you can see it's trying to replicate a city, but instead of sticking tower blocks and buildings in, it's got this sort of auto gen stuff going on, which as I say, I don't really like. It doesn't do it for me. Coventry's got the runway layout correct, which is an important thing, but I'll leave you guys with that thought. It's free, you've got nothing to lose. If you don't like it, you just delete it. One of the joys of X-Plane compared to FSX is that literally when you install it, you just put a file in the folder, and if you don't like it, you remove the file from the folder. It doesn't change anything of the structure of X-Plane. Whether it's an aircraft or whether it's scenery, it doesn't really matter. So my personal opinion is you've got nothing to lose. You might as well download it, you might as well install it, you might as well see how you guys get on. That's how to do it, and that's my thoughts on it, and with that I shall speak to you soon. Take care.